Hello everyone, nubkeks here. Welcome back to Nub Raids, and today the Gnut fusion has gone live in game, and as we always do, I'm going to be diving into the calendar, breaking it down, what you are going to need to do if you want to do this fusion. And again, if you didn't catch my early game Gnut video earlier where I was running him with like really budget early game champions through level 20 dungeons and showing just how insanely good he is there, and there will be videos coming up soon as well. I think the test server is actually down at the moment. There will be videos coming up very soon showing him in more end game content. I'll maybe do an early game Hydra build. We're going to do loads of stuff with this champion because, long story short, this guy's insane. He is absolutely insanely good. A must get if it's possible. We're going to break down if it is possible for you here, what you're going to have to do. I think it's going to be hard, okay? But I'll break it down. I'll show you what to do, how to min-max it. And yeah, hopefully that will be helpful for you to get through this one. So let's see what we have to do. Fairly unusual this time around. So you have to make 3 Force Epics using 4 Force Rares for each one. And then there is a Void Epic as well, and you need the Voids for that one. So that is definitely different. They've done this before where you might need, 3 Force plus 1 Void to make each one, but this time it's very much split up. So that is definitely going to affect how we go through this, especially because let's start off by looking at, let's get a better color than white, shall we? Here we go. So let's look at the summoning events. These are always the first things that are worth looking at as they are the most difficult. So we're going to have Summon Rush for one of the Void Rares and the Force Epic, and then Champion Chase then the following weekend, which is going to be for, well, the final Void Rare. And this is sort of this, this spooky thing, the scary thing. In previous fusions, you might have been able to go grab this Epic and then skip some of the other events. Not going to be quite so useful here because the big event you would want to skip would be Champion Chase. That's the hard one. You need lots of shards for. You are not going to be able to skip it, right? We need all 4 of these because we need the Void Epic. Unless you were to pull him from a shard, it's fairly unlikely. But yeah, fairly unlikely. It's just something to watch out for though. If you get this Epic here, you'll be able to skip, some of these events, but for me, that's not a very high value proposition. It might be somewhat useful, but I don't think super useful. The more useful thing would be skipping this guy, but you can't. You got to basically do both of these summoning events, more than likely. How much is this going to cost? So let me break it down. Summon Rush. I'll actually put this up here. The likely points, now we don't know, but judging from how many points stuff is costing in game already, okay, so I think, is it an event? I think it's an event. Now we've got the Spider Tournament 2250 for the rare from Spider Tournament. That's pretty normal for how they do things these days from the dungeons. I think the Champion Training is coming in. Let's just take a quick look here. Champion Training 7150. So I mean, that's a little bit rough to get. Artifact Enhancement 4775. I think that's actually very, very rough to get. So we're looking at high points for basically all of these events. And that is what I expect for the Summon Rush. I think likely there's a very good chance it's 2150 for the rare and 5,000 points for the epic. They've never done anything above 5,000. It is possible they could inflate this for the rare. We'll see. Let's hope not. In terms of how many that's going to cost you, right? It's 1 point for a mystery shard in Summon Rush, 20 for an ancient, 120 for a void, and 500 for a sacred shard. So to get 2150 for the rare, that would cost you 107.5 ancients. 5,000 would be 250 ancients. Ancient shards, extremely bad for Summon Rush. They even did an event recently where they gave you 150% bonus points to try and make them a bit better for Summon Rush. I recommend skipping this. It would cost you 17.9 void shards for the rare or 4.3 sacreds for the rare. It would cost you 41.6 voids on average for the epic or 10 sacreds for the epic. In fact, this is not on average. This is how much it would cost you, of course, because Summon Rush, it's the fixed cost. So yeah, now what I would recommend, right, is that this Champion Chase over here should be 2x sacreds, right? 2x S. Let's just put in S. This means it's the more difficult one. you're going to be mostly leaning on sacreds for champion chase, and I'd recommend possibly also ancient shards. So probably for summon rush, I'd be leaning more towards void shards if you have them. Again, it would cost you roughly 17.9. Maybe you could do 16 and summon up a bunch of mysteries as well. Throw in a few ancients. Perhaps if you're really stuck, though, I'd prefer to save them for champion chase, but something like that. You could pull some sacreds if you have an excess. Like I've got absolutely tons, so I could do it. And for me, I will do it with sacreds personally. But voids is a pretty efficient way to do it. Mystery shards is a pretty efficient way to do it if you have the time, okay? When it comes to champion chase, right, it's likely 2,500, but again, we don't know for sure, but this is sort of the price point, as it were, that they've done in the past. It's going to be 2x sacreds, so your average points per shard in ancient is going to give you about 31.6, about 77 per void, and 280 per sacred. Now, of course, this is going to vary quite a lot because it's sort of luck based, right? This is the average cost or the average points, but you might get unlucky, not pull anything good, and get absolutely terrible points. You might get really lucky, beat the odds, and get great points. So it's going to vary, but I would expect approximately 9 sacred shards, right, to get the rare that you need from 2x sacreds. It's a lot of sacreds. So you'd be looking at, I think, 9 plus 4. You know, you're looking at approximately 13 sacred shards if you were to do both of these events with sacreds alone. That's a ton of sacreds. You probably don't have 13 unless you're late game. Sorry, just bang my microphone. So that's going to be tough. My recommendation would be to save your sacreds. It's 2x sacreds. It's a pretty good time. And then use ancient shards. It's not too bad with ancients to fill it up. And I'd be more so looking to use the voids and the mysteries here for summon rush. Sacreds if you can. And of course, bearing in mind, for champion chase, you can do lots of stuff. Any login champions you have, you can do. A great tip, actually, of course, you've got your permanent fusions. You can use those, right? Do any of these permanent fusions, you get 250 points for an epic, 350 for a void epic, so that's brilliant. Any fragment champions you've saved up, 500 for a regular legendary, 650 for a void legendary, and again, 250 for a regular epic or 350 for a void epic. So any of that stuff is great. And of course, bearing in mind, the Gnut fusion, you can fuse these guys up 4 points during this event. So by the time we get over to champion chase, it is actually the final event in the whole thing. So you're not going to be able to fuse the void epic to help get the void rare, because you need the void rare to make the void epic. Okay, so that's not going to help you, but you should be able to fuse up these other 3 epics along the way. So that's going to give you 250 points for each one, right? Each of these epics will give you 250 points. That's a 750 point discount. Let's add that in here. So if we say, you know, minus 750 for fusing 3 epics for fusion. Oh my God, I cannot type. So that's going to be, maths are 1750 points left equals, and let me just do that. So we'll do 1750 divided by 280. It's going to cost you about 6.25 sacreds, roughly speaking. So that becomes much more doable. So that's what I'd say. It's going to save you a lot of sacreds, right? A lot. Approximately 3, roughly speaking, if you fuse up these epics. So that is definitely something I would be looking to do. All right. So that's basically what to watch out for. It's pretty intensive in terms of the shards. Let's look at some of the other events here. Let's look at some easier ones to make it a bit more positive. So I think the classic arena is going to certainly be the most straightforward. Let's just knock those out of the way. We've got one there, and we have a second one there. Classic arena is very easy. If you're in silver, it should even work. If you're in gold, you basically get these for free, so long as you're just doing your fights. Shouldn't be a big deal. If you're in silver, it should even still be fine. Just make sure, you'll see, if you're falling behind on a given day, you might need to buy a refill, but you should still be pretty okay. It's just one of those things you might have to keep logging in and refreshing to look for easy fights, but pretty straightforward. For the artifact enhancement events, we've got, once again, 3, and these are pretty expensive. So this is definitely a watch out. I think for a lot of players find artifact enhancement pretty tricky. What can you do for artifact enhancement? Probably the most reliable way to do it is rolling stuff up to level 12. So it would be, for example, coming in here. I know I've got tons of stone skin that needs rolling up. I've got tons of stone skin just in general. So I can come in here, and what you could do, like right here, I could come in and say, let's roll this up to 8. Let's see where it goes. Okay, we got 2 rolls in resistance. That's pretty all right. I'm going to roll it up to 12 now. We got triple resistance. That's fantastic. And that's what I can do. So you can roll it up to 8, see if it actually goes pretty well. If it does, roll it up to 12, and it's going to be pretty consistent. You can, of course, upgrade stuff to level 16, but it's more of a gamble. It might cost you a lot. So that cost me 1.3 million right there to fully roll that up. That gets pretty expensive. I think Artifact Enhancement, yeah, it is. It is open right now. I'm double checking, but that gave me a big chunk of points. But, you know, rolling stuff up to 8 is going to be very, very cost effective because the chances for all of those roll-ups are good. So it's going to give you a stable way to do this. But yeah, it's going to be tough. I highly, highly recommend, again, for any player, never roll stuff up outside of these Artifact Enhancement events in the infusions until, like, you know, you're confident, you've done a few, you've got a sense for where you're at in your account, and you're good. If there's any doubt, only upgrade gear ever during these, apart from, you know, what you need for your daily quests. Do the minimum, but save everything until then. Be patient, okay? But it's going to be pretty tough. These are going to be pretty intense if you've got 3, so watch out. And also worth noting, there is, of course, a cost to fusing these. I believe it's, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it maybe is it like 250 or 350,000 silver to fuse each epic, and then I think it's 1 million to fuse up the legendary. I could be wrong, actually. I forgot to check this before the video, but there is a cost to fusing all of these champions and to fusing the legendary, so don't get caught out by that. You know, be stuck with 2 hours left and you don't have any silver and you can't fuse them. That would be an absolute disaster. So really do watch out for that. Okay, cool, perfect. Other things to watch out for. So let me actually pimp out my stream here. So we're going to have CVC here Tuesday, Wednesday, tomorrow. There is going to be a clan versus clan tournament on, which is personal rewards. Sorry, excuse me, no, it's not. This one is not personal rewards, derp derp. I will be doing a stream, just a chill stream, hanging out. So come check it out. I'll be going live approximately 17 hours and 5 minutes from the recording of this, or just check your in-game clan versus clan tournament for a countdown for, roughly speaking, when I'm going to go live. And then there's going to be no CVC then the following week, and we should be back on CVC here, and this should be personal rewards. I mean, it's absolutely lashing rain outside. I doubt you can hear it because I've got my mic set up hopefully correctly, but man, it's really loud for me. Yeah, this is likely to be personal rewards. You will be able to fuse Gnut during this, and indeed, if you're a mega kraken, you know, you might skip the champion chase tournament, just do that with shards and fuse everything during personal rewards. If they're new epics and stuff, you get a few points. So that's something you consider as well. You could fuse stuff during CVC for maximum points. Certainly fusing Gnut during this could be good. Bearing in mind that, as I didn't mention this already, but 2,500 points for a rare, there's usually going to be a legendary book for 3,000 points. So for most of you, I'd probably recommend doing that. Fusing Gnut during this champion chase and getting the legendary book if you're not in a clan where personal reward CVC is a big deal. If you are in a personal reward big deal clan, they're probably going to want you to be saving Gnut. That's 30,000 points for personal reward CVC. It's a pretty big deal, so they'll likely want you to save for that. So it depends where you are. You're super early game, the clan doesn't really care. Champion chase for a Lego book is a nice, good thing. Otherwise, personal rewards is a good option. Going back to this, right, let's check back in on, let's look at champion training. So I would actually be doing champion training here at the start. All right. That's a pretty good idea. And I'd actually be leaving, let's do these two together. Spider, I'd actually be doing Spider overlapping with Dungeon Divers Event 1. So I would really be trying to blitz out Dungeon Divers with Spider. That's going to be pretty intensive. Dungeon Divers are one of the more difficult events during these fusions. They tend to be very, very point intensive. You often need to run more dungeons than you do to get the champion out of the dungeon tournament. So really watch out for that. So that is what I would do. I'd go hard on Spider. That would be my goal. Tomorrow, Tuesday, Spider comes out, really try to blitz that out as quickly as possible, as you can, to get Dungeon Divers done. Again, a big tip with Spider is that You know, obviously, if you can do stage 10 hard, you know, you're pretty good. You might not be able to do that. If stage 20 is super efficient as well. Or then if you go back, I believe stage 10 is kind of bugged and they've never fixed it. And it actually gives you pretty good points. So if you really struggle with Spider, it's one of the harder early game dungeons. You can do stage 10 and get the tournament done pretty efficiently. And then you could do some champion training in campaign. It's going to give you some dungeon diver points. But yeah, watch out for this dungeon divers. Nice thing is you do have dragon to help you out a bit here. So that is something that could be a bit helpful. Dragon is going to help with this dungeon divers too. So if you are a bit stuck, you can swap over, do dragon, finish this off, and then try finish champ training. And then dragon, actually, there's going to be another overlap here with this dungeon diver. So you got another little bit of an overlap there, which is nice. Even ice golem, it's going to be quite chaotic, as you can see, in terms of figuring this stuff out and your dungeon divers. And again, over here, you can see we've got a bit of gap in ice golem with another dungeon divers going in there. And then actually Fire Knight comes in and goes the whole way across. So, whoops. My advice would be going through this. I would do champion training today, try get a good chunk of that done. I'd go hard on Spider for Dungeon Divers 1, get as much done as possible there. Then I'd be doing, you know, champion training to try finish that off. Start off on Dragon, finish it off, then kind of chill out a little bit. Do your Dragon sort of slow and steady, and then maybe go back hard on Dragon on Saturday when Dungeon Divers 2 kicks off. It's probably what I'd be doing. Try get Dungeon Divers 2 a good bit done. Again, you can jump over on Monday with Ice Golem and finish it off. And then Dungeon Divers 3, I'd mostly be doing that with Fire Knight, to be honest. You could do a little bit with Ice Golem, but mostly with Fire Knight. Yeah, this is one you're going to be bouncing between these Dungeon Divers. So just keep checking back, check your calendar, check in-game. They sometimes get these calendars wrong and the events don't quite line up, though they're pretty good at putting that into the announcements. So you could, for example, if you come over to my Discord channel, in raid announcements over here are their official announcements, or from the official server as well, Discord server. They're usually pretty good keeping you updated, but I'd watch out for it. But yeah, that sort of stuff I watch out for. With this champion training event, I'd basically be squeezing it in, you know, squeeze it in here. Would be my sort of recommendation. Do a good bit at the start, do a good bit at the end. You know, let's say you finish Spider a little bit early, you could maybe squeeze in a bit over here. Once you've done Spider, you're going to be jumping back and forth between the events. This is the long one. You've got a lot of time to do it. Shouldn't hopefully be too bad because there's so much time. And then there's one more champion training, which again is, you know, it's kind of awkward. So let's say once you finish Dragon, I'd be getting a little bit of this done. I go do Ice Golem, and once Ice Golem is done, I'd probably just go hard on this, basically until the end, and then I'd be jumping over to Fire Knight. So your energy path through this event is a little bit chaotic. As you can see, there's stuff going on, but hopefully I gave you a decent gist of what you can do. I might actually do some videos on champion training because this stuff does look fairly intensive. You can use books. You can book up your champions to help with champion training. Although, again, if you are in a clan which takes CVC kind of seriously, they're going to want you to save your books for CVC points because they're such a good source of CVC points. But if you are stuck, you can use them in champion training. Like I said, my recommendation is to skip this. Like, that'd be my recommendation, is to skip that part of the summon rush. I don't really feel like this epic is going to help you too much. Like, skipping any of these, I mean, what would I skip? Like, the Dungeon Divers events are probably the best things to skip. Bearing in mind, you do need to do Dungeon Divers 3. You absolutely must get the rare Void from Summon Rush, Champion Training 2, Dungeon Divers 3, and the Champion Chase. You must get him. You cannot skip him. So other stuff to skip, I don't know. I feel like stuff generally overlaps. I'd be looking to do all of it and skip this epic and save your shards would be my advice. I think saving the shards is definitely the way to go. Is it worth getting the epic as an extra? Is it worth going further? Let's take a quick look at him. I think he's okay, right? So he's got an A1, which is an AoE. That's actually quite nice. That does decrease crit rate, 15%, plus 25, so 40% chance of decreased crit rate. Extra 15% if his HP is full. So that's up to, what, 55% chance? Fully booked out. Okay. 30% decreased crit rate. Funny thing is, that's the big version. it will stop enemies critting you if they're the positive affinity, right? So all the enemies in PvE have a 15% chance, right? Just the base. They don't have any gear. They have 15% chance to crit. If it's like force versus magic, they get an extra 15%. So they have 30%. So it makes it so you can never be crit, which is actually quite decent. It's a good, that's actually a very good A1. Could be quite good to run him in something like a stun set, where he could be stunning the enemies as well. He can put taunt on a target ally for 2 turns on a 4-turn, and reflect damage on all allies for 2 turns. Reflect damage at the moment is basically useless, so that's not so good. It just does barely anything, right? You do lots of damage, but enemies typically don't do anywhere near as much as you do. The taunt buff is actually kind of interesting, right? It forces enemies to use single target moves against the target who has taunt. Kind of good. And then Field Medic, 4-turn cooldown when booked, decrease the duration of 2 random debuffs on all allies, then heals all allies by 5% of their max HP, and a further 2.5% max HP healed for each debuff that has its duration decreased. This is very like Demitha. This is better than it sounds. So let's say you've got 5 allies, and they all have 2 debuffs on them, right? So that's 10 debuffs being reduced. It's going to heal an extra 25% max HP. So it would do 30% max HP heal total. That's actually quite good. Obviously, if you don't have that many debuffs out, it's not quite as good. So it's going to depend a little bit. I think this should be a pretty decent heal. It's a bit weak in decreasing the duration of just 2 debuffs. This will obviously nearly always remove stun, freeze, provoke, those sort of things usually only last 1 turn, so it will effectively get rid of them. Other debuffs like poisons and burns and stuff are usually for 2 turns, so it will leave them with just 1 turn remaining, which isn't too bad. Or decreased defense. Lowers the uptime on that, which is pretty good for safety. I think this is a good move. This guy looks pretty decent. He's got 106 base speed, which is pretty good. He's got good stats overall. He seems like an okay champion. However, like I said, you know, when it comes to shards, the shard cost is very intensive, especially in terms of sacreds. I mean, you got to have a lot of shards to go for this guy. And I think if you've got a lot of shards, I doubt that you need this guy, right? You should be in a good enough position not to need him. But I do think he's nice. I would not pull for him. I personally don't see the point. Yeah, I don't see the point, to be honest. But he's not bad. Like, he's good. I'd be, you know, happy enough to get him. He'd be probably very good for faction wars and maybe some Doom Tower stuff. But yeah, I wouldn't be going out of my way to get this champion, needless to say. And there you are. I think we have covered everything. Look, I really do think this fusion is likely to be difficult. Like, I think the point requirements for everything are likely to be very high. So really do watch out for it. And like I said, the shard events are the big thing that could trip you up. I think we've broken it down pretty much as best as we can. Make sure to fuse the epics during this champion chase. Make it easier for you. See what sort of fragments you can get. If you can do any of the guaranteed fusions. If you got any login champions. You know, just check all those resources. Obviously, you know, you can drop champions from campaign and stuff too. That can give you some extra points. Although, you know, champion training is going to be done. You're unlikely to be getting that many more champions during this champion chase. You're probably going to be doing Fire Knight during it. But you might be able to do some campaign. And get a few drops there, you know, start ripping through some mystery shards and just do some out of tournament champion training. But I think the shard tournaments will be hard. However, like I said, I think Gnut is absolutely insanely good. For me, he is a must-do fusion. So if you have the kind of shards we're looking at here, so if you have, you know, 18 voids or so for Summon Rush, if you're going to be able to fuse up the epics and have about 6 sacreds for this champion chase, you know, if you got a few shards extra to make up for this in case, you know, you get unlucky with your pulls or whatever, or the points are a bit higher than we expect, that's the big drawback. And if you've got the time and the energy to do this, he's absolutely worth it. He's one of the best legendaries in the game. And like I said, he combos very well with Artak as well. So I think this is a champion you 100% want to get. If you can in any reasonable way do this, you absolutely 100% should. 100%. He is insanely good. So there you go. That is what I think of Gnut. Hopefully this was helpful. Again, sorry that this was late today. We were at the vet with the puppy. So yeah, couldn't get it out any earlier. But there you go. Yeah, I'm going to go dive into this. I'll probably do a video on, like I said, champion training to help you guys out with that. Maybe I'll get that out even later today. Maybe tomorrow. Yeah, you know what? I might get that out tomorrow so I can take a break after the stream and still have a video out early in the day. Just like some tips for champion training so you can blitz through. Maybe I should do it tomorrow during CVC. Actually, no, it's not going to matter. I'm going to be over earning points in CVC anyway, so it's fine. So yeah, I'll catch you guys all then. Thank you for watching. See you for the stream tomorrow. And yeah, again, I've already seen a bunch of comments on the Gnut video telling me about stuff you'd like to see Gnut in. So I'll be getting that done over the next few days as well. Stay tuned for lots of test server stuff. If you want to see anything out of the other champions, like if you really want to see this epic or something, I could totally do a video on him too. Let me know in the comments and I can try do that if that's something that you want to see. Thank you for watching. I'll see y'all next time. Goodbye.